Hi, I'm Joanne Lee Cornish, body composition coach and slightly obsessed with being an outlier in midlife and beyond. I offer one-on-one coaching. I have 7 group coaching programs that I run throughout the year, and I also have a 10-month mentorship program. You can find out all about those and a lot more at my website, joannelee.com. Okay, let's get on with this podcast. Hello, and welcome back to Midlife Mayhem. Today, we're covering 3 topics that absolutely should not belong in the same sentence. But here we are anyway. Today, we're going to talk about why women mysteriously lose leg hair as they get older. We're going to talk about why your estrogen patch might have stopped working. And why Taco Bell Supreme has sent my client to the emergency room every single time she eats it. So, the podcast, I have so many topics that I want to cover. The list is always there. And yet my clients and my friends bring up the best topics on a very, very frequently. So these 3 topics actually came up just this week, and I thought it would make a very fun impromptu podcast, because this is not the topic, or they're not the topics that I was going to talk about. Now, before I start, one quick thing is my Muscle Month program. I have had to postpone it. I was meant to start it next week. And the thing about Muscle Month, it's the only program that I coach that I actually have to be at home for the whole month. I have a full commercial gym at home, and I film a lot in the gym. So I have to be at home the whole month for Muscle Month. And a few things have come up, all of which are good. But I cannot be here. I cannot stay home for the whole month. And I was getting a little bit stressed about how I was going to do it. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to... I don't even like running my programs when I'm not at home, because I haven't got my notes and my big computer. But Muscle Month, I just can't. So I've had to postpone it, and it's going to be back, which really throws everything off for the year, honestly. But maybe I was being a bit too optimistic with running my programs back to back. But anyway, so we'll be back at the end of March. Date to be advised, but I'm thinking the Sunday, March the 29th. I'll change the dates on the website. Anyway, back to the topics in hand. So, this is not your shock value episode. This is, these things are your body communicating very clearly, and that we should probably listen episode. That's where we're going with this. So let's start with the leg hair. Because if you're a woman over, 38, 40, you might have noticed a strange thing. At some point, you forget to shave your legs. Then you forget again. And then you realize, it's been 3 weeks and I still haven't shaved my legs. And you're thinking, is it my eyesight? Could I just not see this? Do I look like a fuzzy animal if my eyesight was better? But you feel like there's no stubble. There's no sandpaper feeling. There's no porcupine phase. You've just got these smooth legs. And you kind of like it, but it's kind of weird as well. So, hair growth, especially body hair like leg hair, is driven largely by androgens, meaning testosterone and DHT, the most powerful version of testosterone. And no, so this doesn't mean, suddenly women stop having testosterone, but it does mean that the signal of testosterone gets weaker. As women age, ovarian hormone production declines, and that is where some of the testosterone was made in adrenal. Androgen production even declines, and the hair follicles just receive less stimulation to grow. So the hair follicles are not particularly loyal. They are very signal dependent. So when the signal stops or is less, then the hair grows more slowly, the hair becomes finer, the hair becomes lighter, and eventually the follicles go quiet. So this is called follicular miniaturization, and it's kind of interesting So this is the exact same process that's happening elsewhere in the body, but on your scalp, we panic. On your legs, we kind of celebrate it. So it's the same biology, the different emotional reaction. So when you're talking about, it's not just hormones. We have thyroid matters, thyroid function matters, insulin sensitivity, or should I say insulin resistant matters. So what's up with the thyroid? So hypothyroidism, which is incredibly common in midlife, and you've heard me talk about my thyroid medication, which I'm thrilled that I only have to take half the dose now. That was great. But yeah, so hypothyroidism is very, very common in midlife women, and that slows everything down, including hair growth. If we have reduced circulation, that means reduced nutrient delivery to the hair follicles, and insulin resistance, which is avoidable, but it's very, very common. That also alters androgen conversion and signaling. So when a woman says, I don't get leg hair anymore, and she's loving that, what it actually means is my body is no longer prioritizing non-essential growth functions. But that's kind of important because, muscle is also considered a non-essential, growth function. And, I harp on and on about muscle, but I think people think, oh, if I lift some weights, I eat some protein, I'm going to get muscle. It's not like that. I mean, it's a non-essential. The body doesn't build muscle unless the environment is really, really spot on, which is why you should do muscle month. And you've got another month to think about it. But yeah, so hair is definitely a non-essential growth function, and so indeed is muscle. You have to convince your body otherwise. So the hair reduction on the legs definitely applies to me. Kind of like it, but it also kind of bothers me a little bit. Yeah. The hair follicle shrinking. So that is partly estrogen. Estrogen will reduce the size of the hair follicle, and that is why the hair on your legs is getting finer. But that's also why our hair generally can get finer, because if the follicle is smaller, the hair that grows out the follicle is thinner. So, if you're getting this again and you haven't had your hormones checked, please go check your hormones. You want to know what your estrogen is. You want to know what your testosterone is. You want to check your adrenal functions. You want to check your thyroid. Because they're all important when it comes to hair growth. And even though you might like not having the leg hair growth, it can be going on your scalp as well. That's kind of a nice little segue into the next part of the podcast. And this literally came up within the last hour and a half when I was speaking to a girlfriend of mine. And rotating your estrogen patch. So if you are taking estrogen HRT, maybe you're taking a cream, and maybe you're using a patch. I even see some women are actually injecting it now. I don't know what this fascination with needles is. I am not opposed to needles, not scared at all of them. But, if I don't have to, I'm certainly not, waving my hand around volunteering for it. So I feel like most women, when they start HRT, they use a cream. And then as they get a little bit older, myself included, we moved over to a patch. Super convenient. But what I also hear is, oh, my estrogen, I'm doing the estrogen patch, but my estrogen's actually decreasing. It's not up anymore. My patch isn't working anymore. At first it worked really great, and now it's not. And, usually estrogen is not the issue. It's the receptors that are the issue. So let's just back up and talk about what a receptor is. So a hormone produced from a gland floats around in your blood, and it attaches to a receptor on the cell. Imagine that it's like a key floating around in your blood, and it finds the lock, and the key goes in the lock, turns the lock, and that tells the cell the message of the hormone. So a key can only fit into its own lock, can't fit into any lock. It can only fit into its own lock. And a hormone can only fit to its own receptor. So estrogen can only fit to an estrogen receptor. Estrogen can't fit to a cortisol receptor or a testosterone receptor. It can only fit. So you get it. And so the receptors are, excuse the pun, key. The receptors are, and the hormone is only as good as the receptor because the hormone has to come along, attach to the receptor, and then the receptor gives the message of the hormone to the cell. So when there's an issue with the estrogen patches, it's usually not the estrogen, but it's more likely the receptors. Because the receptors aren't like, passive key locks. They're not like passive mailboxes or something. The receptors are actually active decision makers. And if your estrogen receptor had a personality, your estrogen receptor would be a little bit dramatic. It would be deeply uninterested in repetition, and it would be easily bored. That's if your receptor had a personality. So when you place an estrogen patch in the same exact spot over and over again, then what happens is that the local estrogen receptors, so say you're doing it on your abdomen, even if you switch inside, but if you're placing that patch in the same spot all the time, then that local estrogen receptor can downregulate. The absorption efficiency will decrease. And also the skin can get a little bit irritated and a little bit less responsive as well. So I know a lot of people will switch from side to side on their abdomen, but even that might not be enough. And what can happen over time is, the hormones arriving, the receptors just aren't answering the door anymore. So how does this work best for receptors? The receptors respond really, really well to variation. That's how your body just naturally works. Hormones fluctuate. It's not like some drip feed 1 square inch of the skin forever. So the rotation really does matter. So the rotation, like I say, a lot of people rotate side to side, but what also might be wise is rotating between the lower abdomen, which most ladies do, and then go to the upper outer glute and then the other upper outer glute. So kind of work in a circle. So maybe you're working on your left abdomen, then your right abdomen, then your right upper glute, and then your left upper glute. And maybe you do, 2 months on each spot, or maybe 3 months on each spot, and you just rotate round. This is just going to really respect receptor biology. And you might find that your estrogen work, your blood work, when you do it, actually stays more elevated. You might have seen it decline, and this could be why. The third topic. This came up last night with my lovely, lovely lady, and I know she listens to the podcast, so this is for you, love. I'm not going to name you. This is for you. Let's talk about Taco Bell. My husband teases me because I've never ate fast food, ever. I've never had a McDonald's. I've never had an In-N-Out. I've never ate at Taco Bell. I've never had you name it, Burger King. Never had it. I have had the milkshakes out of McDonald's when I was, I remember drinking them in Australia. So I was between 25 and 27 there. But that's going to be like, I'm sure I've ate some French fries out of McDonald's because I'm sure I've pinch them off a friend's plate or something like that. But I've never ordered it. I have ordered a milkshake, that vanilla milkshake it's like a workout. It's so thick you can't get through the straw. But again, it's been decades since I did that. So I don't know much about fast food. And that's not because I'm so, virtuous or anything like that. It's just because I started competing when I was very young. So I started in the bodybuilding world. My first competition was, as a teenager. So, I was doing competition diets when other people were doing fast food. And that was also around the era in England. It wasn't on every corner by then. I do remember having Kentucky Fried Chicken once. I will say that. But other than that, no, never. And again, I'm going back to when I was 18 years old. because I remember the gravy from is it still good? It used to be really good. Anyway. So one of my clients last night, she's talking about Taco Bell. And in this story, I'm saying it in a bit of humor, but it's not really funny until you understand what's happening. So my client loves to eat Taco Bell Supreme. And she has to drive past it all the time, and she will often do it. And she ends up in hospital. Like every time she vomits violently and she ends up in hospital. Every single time. Now, the joke there is like, and you keep doing it. And we had that little conversation last night. But then you might think, oh, it's food poisoning, it's bad luck. But no, not necessarily. What can be going on here? Especially with it happening every single time. And it's not necessarily one ingredient. It's more of a perfect storm. So the first thing I would talk about is histamine. So the histamine is really high in processed meats. Cheese sauces, really high. Tomatoes. Some of the seasoning blends are incredibly high in histamine. Or they're either very high in histamine or they trigger a histamine release. And a histamine release, histamine intolerance is extremely common in middle-aged women, estrogen-dominant states, and that's middle-aged women, and people with gut permeability issues. Now, this lady hits all three. Midlife lady, estrogen-dominant, and she's had a lot of gut issues. I mean, to the level of multiple surgeries. So yes, histamine intolerance is really going to hit her hard. I mean, I know my histamine intolerance is definitely higher, and I know that because I can't drink wine. I mean, I can, but I'm going to have a horrible reaction if I do, and that's the histamines in wine. So I hear that a lot as well. Oh, I used to be able to drink wine, I can't drink it anymore, and that's the category I'm under. It's the histamine. And very, very, very much linked to fluctuating estrogen. Right. What if you do get either a very high histamine food or a food that is triggering the histamine release? What, in extreme cases, will this cause? Nausea, vomiting, dizziness, a rapid heart rate, emergency room level reactions in sensitive people. And again, estrogen amplifies this histamine response. Now, with histamine, like same with my wine, I didn't end up in hospital, but rapid heart rate, like there's no way I was going to sleep after a glass of wine. And for me, incredible flushing and actually skin irritation. That's what I would get. So definitely with this lady, she ticks all the boxes for histamine intolerance, especially with the gut permeability issues that she's had. Next up, the emulsifiers, the seed oils. So we've got the soybean oil, we've got the canola oil, we've got stabilizers, emulsifiers, and all of these are going to do a number to our gut lining. So they are going to increase the intestinal permeability. And I can't believe I even have to describe this again, because is this like the millionth and two time that I've talked about gut permeability, leaky gut? If you follow me, you've heard this before. Okay. Do I have to say it again? Oh my God. Okay, so increased intestinal permeability. So basically your intestines, the lining should be like cheesecloth. So, if you pour liquid through cheesecloth, it drains through, but, it keeps any solids on one side. Well, you imagine you change that cheesecloth into fishnet stockings, and now you've got big old holes in the cheesecloth, and anything can get through. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about intestinal permeability. Leaky gut. So these oils, these stabilizers, these disrupt the gut lining. These can increase the holes in your gut. Let's put it like that. So that means that substances, like I said, that should stay in your gut suddenly enter the bloodstream. When they enter your bloodstream and they're meant to stay in your gut, then the immune system is like, what on earth is this? What is this in the blood? I don't recognize this. And the immune system does what the immune system is meant to do. It goes to fight for you. It goes to fight anything it doesn't recognize. So now your immune system is attacking, the foods that have got through your gut and entered into your blood when they shouldn't be there in that form. So your immune system notices, your nervous system is going to react, and your body just hits like the eject button. So yeah, we've got the histamine intolerance. We've got the leaky gut that is caused and made worse. Then you've also got this gluten FODMAP spice combo. So even if you don't have celiac disease, gluten increases gut permeability. I know I've done a podcast on this. You're going to have to go way, way back. But this is... All right, let me just take a sidebar here and explain this, because this is important. People think that a gluten intolerance, some people think it's real, some people think it's fake. Some people think, oh, it's just marketing nonsense and everyone just wants to sell you a gluten-free blah, blah, blah. That's not true. Now, some people are more sensitive than others, but what gluten does, period, to everybody, it increases a thing called zonulin. And an increase in zonulin increases gut permeability. It increases the looseness of the gut lining. It creates those holes. It doesn't create the holes. But imagine the cheesecloth, and then you loosen the thread, and now the thread's all loose with holes in it. That's what zonulin does. Gluten increases zonulin. I don't care who you are. So when people say, oh, gluten sensitive, that's nonsense, that's not real. Absolutely not true. Look up zonulin. Now, it's a dose-dependent thing, right? So if you eat a bit of gluten now and again, a bit of zonulin, body can work with that. But if you're eating gluten every meal, then that's a problem. That zonulin is going to cause gut permeability issues. I hear that a lot, so I had to do a little segue. People that think because there's a lot of gluten-free products, they just think it's marketing nonsense. This I cover a lot in my Tight 28 program. I don't even know when I'm going to do that now. Good gracious. So yeah. So now you've got the Taco Bell, so you've got the gluten. So even without celiac disease, that gluten increases gut permeability. Now, if you add that to somebody that's eaten a lot of other gluten, that situation is worse. Then you've got the onion and the garlic powders that are high in FODMAP. You've got the spices that irritate an already inflamed gut. And this combination alone can trigger the mast cells of your immune system to react. So what have we got so far? We've got the histamines, we've got the oils and the emulsifiers, and we've got the gluten and the spice combo. What else? One more. The gallbladder. What about estrogen slows the gallbladder emptying? High fat meal. So what does the gallbladder do? The gallbladder stores bile. Bile emulsifies fat. So when we have fat in our meal, we need to emulsify the fat to digest it, and we need the bile that is made in the liver but stored in the gallbladder to do that. Estrogen slows gallbladder emptying. High fat meals require store bile release. If bile flow is sluggish, fat sits in the stomach, nausea escalate, vomiting can follow. So this is why some women can eat a burger, no problem, but a Taco Bell Supreme sends them to the ER. Not the food, it's the context. If the body is already inflamed, if it's already sensitive, it's already compromised, and then you're basically handed a biochemical grenade, bad things can happen. I'm sure this isn't isolated to just Taco Bell. Although my lady says she could eat anything else, and she listed up a whole load of places, she said it was only Taco Bell. So again, histamine response, because the processed meats, the cheeses, the tomatoes, the seasoning blends, high histamine, or a trigger for histamine release, which is made worse if you're a midlife woman. If you're a midlife woman and you're estrogen dominant and you have gut issues, it's a lot worse. You're going to feel sick, you're going to feel dizzy, you're going to get a rapid heart rate. And in this case, this lady ends up in the ER. That was kind of interesting podcast, huh? So, leg hair, estrogen pouches, and Taco Bell, what do they have in common? That's a Jeopardy question. But they all point to the same truth. Midlife is not about being fragile, but it is a lot less forgiving. There's a lot of things that you could ignore when you were younger, but you can't anymore. You can't ignore receptor biology. You cannot ignore gut health. We just can't eat like a 22-year-old with a bulletproof liver and, with zero consequences anymore. Okay. I think that's it for Midlife Mayhem this episode. I hope you love it. I hope you subscribe. I hope you've checked out my new website at joannelee.com. Oh, what else do I want you to know? So, the supplements I sell, they're over on the website now. And yes, Muscle Month. Oh, man, I was stressing myself out. I was giving myself anxiety, trying to figure out how to do it. And, I'm coaching the Victory Vault program right now. And it was actually my own coaching in that program that was like, Joanne, what are you doing? Just postpone it. It's okay. I love coaching and I love it to be a really great experience. And that was going to stress me out. So that's going to be shifted till the end of March because I've got a few trips I have to do. But anyway, musclemonth.com. All right. So go shave your legs. I do hope you enjoyed this podcast. You can find me all over social. Just search my name, Joanne Lee Cornish. And of course, my website, joannelee.com. Be sure to check out what program I have got right now. I'm sure to be running something. And remember, you can always contact me, joanne@joannelee.com. Until next time.